So finally, like after I went through that 2 or 3 years after I was done playing of still drinking and hitting this rock bottom, I just got tired, man. And I literally, because of my spiritual background and my father being a pastor, just one day, Nasi, I said, God, I really need you to help me. I really want to be sober. And I went to this place called Rushford Center in Connecticut. I went there for 4 days. Now, this is like my 4th attempt at sobriety, but my mind was made up, man. I had nothing else. Like I wanted my sobriety. I'm like, bro, if you want to turn your life around, the first thing you got to do is take care of you. Like no more like tricking people and fooling people and chasing this NBA dream. Like really, really stop the train and change that part. And so I went to this place called Rushford Center in Middletown, Connecticut, like 20 minutes from my hometown. And here I am 13 years later. 13 years in April of this year, I'll be 13 years sober.
13 years sober?
13 years sober. Thank you, brother.
Man.
Thank you, brother.
13 years sober. That's insane, man.
In the journey, honestly, Nasi, like I wouldn't trade anything that's happened to me I wouldn't change anything because of all the amazing things that have happened on this journey to sobriety. I got a chance to write a book, God in Starbucks.
God in Starbucks. So now let me ask you a question about this. God in Starbucks. So you get sober and then you start working on Starbucks?
So I got sober, and one of my good friends, Howard Schultz, former CEO of Starbucks, like he was the owner of the Seattle Supersonics. So
yeah,
I knew him from the Sonics, and we developed a friendship while I was there playing for him. And so I was about 1.5 years into my sobriety, and I called him because now I got to start networking and working again to get back on my feet. My mind is clear. So I called him and he picked up the phone. He was so excited. He's like, Vin. And I was like, man, I'm kind of cutting through the conversation. I'm like, man, I need to work. I need to get back on. And if you try to get back on, if you got a billionaire call, like
you got to get straight to the point.
Right.
Straight to the point.
So anyways, he met me a month later in New York. We sat down, me, his wife, Sherry, and Jordan Schultz, and we sat down. We had a great conversation. And what was interesting is when we were done with the conversation, I was, I had given my life back to Christ, and I was doing the conversation. I was like, God, 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 God. And I was talking to Howard, and so when I left the conversation, when I drove back home, he called me. He said, I got it. I know what we're gonna do. And he was like, I want you to go to this church in Harlem. I was like, church in Harlem? I'm thinking like I'm about to take over like 5 Starbucks and we can start there and then I take over 10. He's like, no, I got a great friend in Harlem named Dr. Calvin Butts, God rest his soul, Dr. Calvin Butts, and I want you to go to Harlem. I want you to meet him. And so I ended up going to Harlem, meeting with Dr. Calvin Butts at the historical Abyssinian Baptist Church in New York City in Harlem, and I became the youth minister there, the youth pastor there. I was there for 2 years. I studied at Union Seminary for my master's in divinity. I studied there for 2 years. I stayed there for 2 years, and it was a huge change in my life. It was like one of the most pivotal 2 years of my life because I was able to work with the church, study the Bible. It was pivotal. And then ultimately, I ended up calling Howard, like, the ministry is amazing. Thank you. I need some coins. I need to make some money, man. And so he called me, or I got an email from a guy by the name of Dan Pataski from Starbucks. And he was like, what do you think about retail? I'm thinking like, yeah, I run a few stores. I got to learn how to do it. And he's like, yeah, okay, let's set it up. Little did I know that I was about to be stepping into the tallest barista in the history of Starbucks.
Oh,
So when
shoot.
I went to, it wasn't any ownership. I was actually going to be a barista at Starbucks. So that's how my Starbucks career started. It ended a year later, but that's how it started.
But now, okay. Let me ask you. You look like one of the guys who would really be nice though. You look like you could be. No, I'm seriously. Like I had the kind of face too. Like if I was working Starbucks, I would be.
Oh, I thought you meant at making the coffee now.
Nah,
That's why I laughed, because I was horrible at that.
No. Not
Terrible.
making the coffee, but I'm just saying, like, as a manager, saying hi, you know, taking care of people, like just seeing like what's going on, make sure everybody's good.
Yeah, no, it was so good to be there, man. Like a lot of people, like so many articles came out, like NBA player made $100 million, now working at Starbucks. But to be perfectly honest with you, Nasi, it was one of the best years of my life. Little do people know, man, I was like living a sober life. I didn't care what the job was. I was happy that I was sober.
Yes.
That I was waking up every morning not needing to use a vice, alcohol or drugs. Like it was a pivotal moment. And to be honest with you, I didn't have any like grand ideas. I did want to become like district manager, regional manager at some point, but I was actually doing the job. You know, a lot of people don't know what a clopen is. I do. A clopen is you close the store and then you open it. So leaving at 11:30 at night from Starbucks and being back the next morning at 4 to open the store. And why that was so pivotal to me, because it was disciplining me, Nasi. I was learning to live life on life's terms. You know, going from now I'm all NBA to being a Starbucks manager, that takes a level of humility.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a humbling moment, and it's not about the job too. It could be anything, you know.
Right.
It's not just
Right.
the job, but just the level that you understand that you're not invincible. You're not, you know, you're human. You know,
Right.
like, and this is life. This is
Right.
You know, life. It's like life is like a stock. You know, it just goes ups and down, up and down and down. But you eventually want to be up here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like the journey at 51, Nasi, like, you know, going through my year at Starbucks.
How did you end up leaving Starbucks, by the way?
I got a job with the Bucks.